As time ticked on and the world staggered into the modern era, the Blessed Virgin Mary came to be portrayed in different ways by the several religions that recognize her special place in the drama of transcendence and redemption. These differences reflect a polarity between presence and absence. On the one hand, the Mary of the senses is present in sight, hearing, scent, and physical acts of devotion. On the other, the Mary of the intellect is abstract, remote, intangible, and often wholly absent from any physical acts of devotion. This polarity between Mary's presence in the religion of the senses and her absence in the religion of the intellect has been expressed in several different ways in the Christian transition to modernity. For example, stubbornly held individual Marian beliefs and devotional practices have often differed from and sometimes clashed with the hierarchy of religious establishments and their mandates. Ethnic traditions have challenged the uniformity of universal dogma, and local lay leadership has influenced and sometimes split off from global leadership on questions about Mary, who she was, who she is, and whether and how she should be revered. Modern Mary has enjoyed more or less constant roles in the Protestant and Eastern Orthodox religions. In the Protestant world, Mary makes a brief appearance in the manger scenes of Christmas. She then disappears, or at best, reverts to the invisible role of dutiful housewife. Protestants evidence little curiosity about the implications of Christology for the mysteries of Mariology and vice versa. The Eastern Orthodox remain confident in the Mary of their patristic and imperial past. She is the very definition of iconic imagery and has played a steady and important role in dogma, liturgy, and religion as it is lived in the Eastern Orthodox world. But modern history has been a roller coaster ride for the Mary of Latin Catholicism. Modern Mary has more than once been swept off of Catholic altars and banished from church and cathedral. Yet the invisible power of Marian devotion has time and again restored her place and presence and defended her against secular and religious enemies. The French Revolution and the Second Vatican Council were separated in time by 2 centuries and in thought by infinitely different worldviews. Neither set out initially to remove Mary as Queen of Heaven. Yet the consequences of both were assaults on Mary's heavenly throne. Like many other revolutions, the French Revolution grew out of noble ideals, but the pursuit of liberty, fraternity, and equality degenerated into authority, brutality, bigotry, and eventually terrorism. The French Revolution early on attacked the Catholic Church. The assault on the Church was at first driven by money, the new state's need for funds, but it soon turned into violent, virulent hostility to religion itself. The Catholic Church's properties were seized. Religious symbols and statuary, including especially those of the Virgin Mary, were swept away from sacred places and destroyed. Priests, bishops, and nuns were rounded up and forced to take oaths of allegiance to the French civil state and to renounce the authority of the Pope in Rome. Those who refused to bow to the secular authority of the state were, at best, deported. Thousands were murdered informally by mobs, or officially by the state at the infamous guillotine. Among the most horrific of the official guillotine murders was the slaughter of 16 Carmelite nuns on the 17th of July, 1794. Ironically, the revolutionary travails of the Roman Church ultimately worked against the radicals of the French Revolution and made the Pope stronger, not weaker. By the end of the 19th century, there was no question that the Pope was in charge. But like all executives, the Pope must manage a range of doctrinal, devotional, and political opinion within the Church at large. Two strong currents pulled the Church in different directions in the mid-20th century. Some Catholic leaders wanted change that, in their eyes, would make the Church and its religion more accessible to ordinary worshipers. But others thought that changing the traditions of the Church would destroy the very faith that it had nurtured for 20 centuries. These two currents swirled like invisible undertows throughout the Second Vatican Council, which was called to Rome in the 1960s to reinvigorate the Church into the modern world. On the surface, the Council's reports reflected consensus. But as different strands of the Council's work were unwound, lines of division became apparent. Some of the changes resulting from the conference were direct and apparent, such as the substitution of the vernacular Mass for the traditional Mass in Latin. But Catholic reformers derived other changes from Vatican II, either by inference or by preference. Reformers in the United States, for example, criticized the ornate style of Catholic churches and cathedrals, and especially their statuary. They pushed for a minimalist church architecture, shorn of the imagery of the senses. Guitars and other modes of popular music were integrated into the vernacular Mass. And there was a dramatic elimination of ritual and imagery relating to the Virgin Mary. Indeed, in many churches, all statuary imagery was banished to storerooms or destroyed. The Mary of the intellect, in effect, swept the Mary of the senses from large swaths of the Catholic Church. But Mary's story did not end there. Her devotees eventually regrouped and pushed back. Although diminished by any objective measure, Marian devotion has been reasserted. To millions of the faithful, Mary is indeed, well into the 21st century, still the Queen of Heaven.